Right, welcome back. We're in the last 15 minutes of our conversation about the National Council of Provinces and the South African Local Government Association. They're having a big conversation this week in the NCOP about local government in particular, and we'd like your questions at Morning Live SABC, as we also continue to take questions from our audience here in Cape Town. And we go straight to table number 2, where we find Mtikemi Sibande. Okay, we'll get a microphone to you. And if you could be brief with your question, and I'll get brief answers but comprehensive.
Morning, Peter, and your panelists as well as people at home. My question was simple as straightforward as follows. In particular to SALGA, what programs do you have in order to assist the ongoing crisis of his nyoga illegal connection? Because at the moment it is alleged that there is a huge money which is owed by the municipalities to the ISCOM, and that create a bad image. In order to correct that, may you please maybe elaborate on that one? Thank you very much.
All right. So illegal connections are not only robbing us of revenue, but it's also people are dying. We're seeing a lot of accidents happening recently. What are we doing about that as a municipality?
George. Peter, I'm glad to indicate that the leadership of SALGA in 2011 passed a resolution that seriously elevated this challenge of illegal connections, theft of municipal infrastructure, cables in particular. And it not only affects local government. We have seen trains derailing, people stealing, cable theft. We have seen electricity substation blowing up in many areas. So one of the key resolutions that the leadership of SALGA passed was that when you look at the current provision of the Electricity Regulation Act, as well as Criminal Procedure Act, it was quite clear that this kind of crime is not given the necessary status that it should attract the highest penalty. You go to magistrate, they are sitting with piles of cases. Now a case of cable theft that must attract 50 rand as a fine is not an important issue. So we looked at this issue and we advocated for a review of legislation so that this matter must be given the highest sanction possible to regard it for what it is, national sabotage, economic sabotage. So if you go today, I'm glad that the Justice Cluster of Cabinet approved an amendment to the bill, which I think it might be going to Parliament, that clearly classify the nature of the crime for what it is. So the law enforcement agencies have got legal instruments to deal decisively with this issue. So local government with any other authorities would now have better legislative machinery to see to the better response on this matter.
Okay. Cable theft is quite clear, but illegal connections, is this more a function of poverty and needing electricity, or is it that electricity hasn't been delivered to those areas?
Peter, theft is theft is theft.
Yes, but if someone is in...
Do you want to justify?
No, I'm not justifying it. I'm just trying to say, what is causing some people to do it then? Is it that electricity hasn't come to an informal settlement and therefore we're going to plug in, or is it they just don't want to pay?
Theft is theft is theft. No. Actually, one, what we need to realize is that by this kind of an action, you are depriving the municipality to provide services for those who don't really get services. And the unfortunate part is when it comes to electricity theft, it is within the area where electricity is provided. You know, either through your backyard connections or bypassing the meters and so on. It's where electricity is provided most at the end of the day. That's why we consider it to be theft. But What we are saying, and also with the minister, is that our citizens should not tolerate this type of actions, because you find you basically are paying for this service and somebody else is not paying. But you also realizing this action, you don't even report it. You know, you tolerate it. But at the same time, it basically robs your own government to be providing a better service also on other areas.
Okay.
It also demonstrates the element of the glue that we talked about. Local municipalities can't pass a legislation that criminalizes, for instance. Therefore, Parliament working together with the local sphere then is at that level to introduce and pass that kind of a legislation, which will, by the time it comes to Parliament, there will be space now, a greater space even for SALGA, once it gets introduced at the level or sent to the NCOP for concurrence, to further improve on that piece of legislation before it is passed by Parliament and ascended by the President.
All right, so Mr. George, maybe let me ask you this. There's an interesting story that's happened in Cape Town relating to housing funds, where the South African Local Government Association has waded into the City of Cape Town and Department of Human Settlements funding row and will lobby Treasury to release crucial housing money to the Metro. How do we resolve these tensions, these challenges, where we've got these different departments, municipalities, funds that are supposed to be allocated that are stuck somewhere? How do we deal particularly with a situation like this?
Well, it might be reported as a challenge of the City of Cape Town. SALGA in 2012 advocated for a differentiated model of support to municipalities and elevating in particular, correctly so, the status of cities, that the devolution of housing function and resources should be targeted to cities. For the simple reason, the in-migration of citizens of South Africa from the outlying areas, rural or peri-urban, is creating enormous challenges for cities. So we think that in the inter-sphere relationship between national, provincial, where there's better capacity, cities must be given that. So SALGA advocated for that. As a result, there was an allocation of 300 million for what is called Human Settlement Grant Support. And there's been delays in the transfer. Eventually, the transfers were made. So what is outstanding now is what was supposed to have been allocated in July in terms of what we call Division of Revenue Act. So working closely with National Treasury, there's conversations that are taking place with Human Settlement to make sure that all our cities, including City of Cape Town, must receive this, because these are statutory grants allocated by Parliament. So in the financial year 2015, it starts in July, and the National Department of Human Settlement has to allocate these resources to municipalities. So SALGA will be having a conversation with the department, hopefully to persuade them to do likewise.
All right. What about municipal employees? If they're not happy with what they're getting paid, we suffer the most, actually, when they put down their tools. Where are we in terms of wage agreements, settlements? Should we not fear any kinds of tools being put down?
Peter, I think South Africans should commend the leadership of SALGA, the National Executive Committee of SALGA. You would recall that the last time you recall a strike in the sector and instability is far back as 2009. And now it's 2015. 6 years in a row, there's stability in the sector. So I'm glad to announce that the collective bargaining parties, Labour, SAMWI, MATU, and SALGA, have reached an agreement, a multi-year agreement, 2015 to 2018, yesterday, which has now been signed. And it takes into account the character of the employer, which is local government, a caring employer. It contains provisions that really target workers who earn at the lowest range to receive progressive conditions of service. We have workers who have no access to medical aid, and the agreement we have now speaks of a a pioneering mechanism of us ensuring that every worker out of the 278,000 we have should be able to receive access to decent medical care. Again, workers that receive housing allowance and workers that banks won't give them access. We normally call them gap market, people who earn less than 8,000. So the agreement, they can't get RDP because they are above 3,500, but they can't get the normal bond market. So again, the agreement takes a progressive stance to make sure that we must have a mechanism to move everybody towards access to housing. The third issue is about commitment to back to basics. Unprecedented in the 3 spheres. The agreement we have would now call on workers to commit, and they have agreed on this, to make sure that we have, for the first time, what we call service charter. Because local government is simple for one reason, to serve citizens better. So there can be no better people to commit to that than workers. And I think we're quite pleased as the employer that our workers have taken this matter, and we will have agreement of ensuring that there's service charter to pledge serving citizens and improve on performance management. And I think for us it's quite a huge cause for celebration. So as we go to 2016 election, there's focus on service delivery and accelerating the pace of servicing our people.
All right, okay, so that sounded very much like a closing thought, which is great because that gives you two literally 30 seconds each just to give us your final thoughts. As you've been having these very important deliberations, what would your final message be to the people at home about the NCOP and SALGA and the way forward, but literally in 30 seconds?
We are working very hard to improve our relationship with SALGA. We have made it our constitutional mission to ensure that at all times we don't work in silos, to ensure that at all times we will defend and represent the interests of the local sphere and the provincial sphere. We are working very hard to ensure that national priorities are integrated into the municipal integrated development plans, so that we don't have these kind of gaps that then lead to service delivery process.
So you're working hard. That's your message.
We are moving forward.
30 seconds.
There is another critical area that normally we don't look into. We brought it to the attention of this NCOP week. The relationship between the municipalities councils with our traditional leadership. And basically, the traditional leadership is saying we are available also as a tool for service delivery. We can work with municipalities closely in this regard, and I think it is quite important. The second point that
Right. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I think that is a very important point to bring to the party. So thank you very much indeed to the Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, Mr. Raseriti Papi Tau. Thank you very much. Councillor Thabo Bajoni, thank you very much indeed. Chairperson of SALGA and the CEO of SALGA, Mr. Xolile George. And to you at home, thank you very much for being part of this conversation. To my audience here as well in Cape Town, thank you for your questions. And we look forward to another conversation with our country's leadership somewhere in South Africa. Take care, everybody. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Peter.
And our thanks to you, Peter, and thanks to your guests as well. And thank you for watching wherever you're joining.